when I first heard the few videos that Tony sent to me, that's the first thing I noticed. Wow, it sounds great, very well orchestrated, amazing style of music, something that I really like. And the things that we can work on are the very simple things, like the attack of the note, which is hard thing to really nail, because this style of music doesn't really call for a clean note attack. I mean, some people prefer it to be dirty and a lot of overtones with the blow, but if you try to narrow down the stream of air that comes from your lips into the tube, then you can have a bit more control on the note and the type of vibrato you can put in. I noticed that some people were doing the real quick vibrato, and then some people were not doing any vibrato at all. So if we could, kind of get some control of that, that's what I would, work on. And the attack of the note is, in Bolivia, they put a lot of emphasis into how you strike that, you would have seen a lot of the more poppy Andean bands that they do like a real firm attack with no overtone, and then a very clean sustain, which is kind of, it takes away from the roughness the essence of the Andean pamphlet. The one thing that I got taught in Bolivia was, it's a bit of a disgusting thing, but we have to talk about it. It's when you spit out, say you got something that you need to spit out, that action is what you need to try and do into your tube. But of course, without spitting.
So you're doing a is it with your tongue, a t, or more with your lips?
With the tongue, like when you start doing the recorder, when they say, tongue, semi, but with a real strong. And the practice was, don't sustain, just work on the attack. Try with the Ica tubes first, and then move your way down. So there's no wind to the note, it's just the attack. So that's something that you can do daily to try and perfect that action, but that's what you find.
Is it more like a P than a T?
Literally, you have to sound like a dry spit.
Because the T, that is the tongue, but the thing that I see you doing is more the lips.
Oh, it's got the tongue. It's got the tongue. Yeah, it's got the tongue and the lips, and literally that you have to spit.
Yep.
Like when you have something there,
it's the tongue, not on the teeth. Tongue is on the lip.
On the lip.
On the lip, yeah, I see that, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Which is different to the recording. The other instance where the tongue is on the roof of the mouth.
Right, yeah. So,
Okay, so just try that again with that. But that's also for a strong attack one, isn't it?
That's one of the techniques that I've been using all my, and that I got taught. It's mostly in Bolivia that they really go down into the technique of blowing, whereas a lot of the other Andean kind of countries don't really do a lot of those little details of the technique. But that is a first one that I got taught, to practice without blowing.
So you're not really blowing at all through your...
Only the mouth.
Just the mouth?
Yep. And it's hard to speak but not speak, but you have to try.
I was just wondering how you would do that if you were doing a long note, like say the intro of Into
this is
only
just-
for a
This is
short
only
note.
for the attack to the initial
For the
note.
short notes,
Yeah,
okay.
it's an exercise only to deal with that initial attack. When it comes to sustained notes, then we'll go into that.
Later, okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
so-
Yeah.
But this is more of a practice that you'll eventually, gradually see that action becoming easier to do, which is that, and it's strictly the Bolivian school of pan flute playing, the sickle. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's one thing that everyone can work on, and there's a few links to a listening guide if you want to hear what some players do. Some people even use that technique in the recordings just to vary it up a bit, but I think it's important, and yeah.
Okay, so you'd be able to just send some links to me, and then I can give them.
Yeah, you can read them out.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's what up to you if you want to form part of your regular practice. But apart from that, the other one that I was really mentioned to you on the phone was the sustain notes. That becomes a bit harder because you're talking like breath control and the type of vibrato you use. In Bolivia, especially using some of the styles of what you said, italaques and cantu, that becomes a big part of it. You know, when you do wah 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 wah. So we need to kind of come to that same how we're going to vibrate it. But that's very. It depends on the song. You know, that you do. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if we can learn the technical things, then we can work out where to put it in
That's
sort of
right.
the bits. So so there's a few of us who can do good vibrato.
And some of us who don't do it at all.
Yeah, because they've never learnt how to do
Oh.
vibrato. So maybe you could tell us, say, how the Bolivian way of
Yeah,
teaching
absolutely. Yeah,
vibrato.
yeah. And a lot of these works, from the smaller tubes to the higher, and you build your way up to the sanka and the toyo. And
Yeah.
stuff. So the way that I learned to be able to control that is in a group, of course, and usually just ascending or descending scales, with the ira arca. And that also helps you with the musicality of this rhythm that you're trying to do. So if it's a italaque,
So that's in threes. 1, 2, 3. So sometimes that vibrato might be in 4 or in 2 or so, depending on what the tune is.
And once again, a listening guide, there's some bands that really play with that and they make it amazing. Aguatinas is one of them. I don't know if you would have heard.
Aguatinas.
Yeah. And they're like an orchestra. They will do straight tones, heavy, orchestrated, synchronized vibrato. I remember I put that in the email, but I didn't know. But they do that. They wah 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 wah, and they really play with that. And it's an advanced technique, but it's something that I think would benefit your style.
So, and the vibrato comes, is it diaphragmatic?
Yes. Yes. Almost purely from the diaphragm.
So you have to sit up straight or stand. So how about we just go 5 up to 7, both of us, arca starts, and then back down again.
Okay.
So try that. So right on arca 5, dun, dun.
So it's only one attack, the initial attack, and the rest is all vibrato. So
Yeah. So could we try that as well? Okay, 2 things to think about. That initial attack with a so yeah, and then so it'll be yeah. So 5, 6, and 7, and then we'll try and go back down again and see what it's like.
And arca starting.
Arca starts, yeah. After 1, 3, 4.
So when you're doing like a long note with a vibrato like that, do you still attack it in the same way that you showed us right at the start?
Well, it doesn't become so important because you're not tonguing a lot of notes.
Yeah,
You're not
okay.
really phrasing. The phrasing comes from the. Well, not really phrasing, the rhythmic.
The strong attack is with faster sorts of things.
Yeah, but you'd want to always use that unless
Yeah.
it's a song that doesn't require a strong attack. But it's more the kind of the Bolivian school of pan flute playing. You know,
Yeah.
just real staccato kind of. You know, yeah.
You talked about a couple of groups, maybe that could be like the email too about what I was.
Argentinians,
Yeah, some good groups to listen to
Yeah,
for certain
absolutely.
techniques.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So what we're talking about here, though, is a long note. So you attack the first part of it and then vibrato the rest of it. So it's only one note.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was asking about that combination, how much you attack.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So once again, this vibrato will, like you're a lot of you wings players, it's something you build up over time. But
What I would love is if you could just tell us how you breathe before you play.
Okay.
Where, if you could just go through that
Okay.
from the start. Where
okay, because it's not a song, you can just take a deep breath.
But
Right.
where do you take the breath?
Yeah.
Deep
Well, if you would want to feel like the diaphragm, you know, not just your mouth or your you know.
And it feels tight there because you're pushing with your diaphragm. That you should try to feel tight.
But
Yeah,
it's
first
a
of all,
bit like-
you're inside the
it's a bit like
Yeah.
three puffs.
Yeah.
We're doing three puffs, but merged together. So instead of, it's
Oh yeah. Okay.
sort of
in one breath. Yeah.
One
three-
breath,
multiple breaths smoothed into.
But try to feel like the puff's coming from down low.
Definitely.
Rather than, yeah. So just people that don't feel too confident, just see how you go.
We started on
5
5, 6,
doesn't have to be all of you. So yeah, 5, 6. Just do it 5, 6, 7, and then just stop. Yeah, okay. You don't want me just sort of getting them in. 3, 4.
It's sounding very good. You definitely got the idea. It's one note, and then the rest you try and it'll be a bit hard at first, but it's your diaphragm that's doing the pushing. Say like, how could you compare it with the voice? I mean, is there something?
If you rest your hand on your diaphragm and just feel it each time, you go. It's a.
It's like laughing.
Compression.
Like laughing, yes.
If you go and put your hand on your diaphragm while you're laughing and feel that vibration,
Yeah.
then that's what you're trying to achieve with the breath.
Yeah. Exactly. There is one exercise that I got shown in Bolivia once again when I was young, which I think they use it in other, I think in singing, pardon my ignorance, but it's you stick out your tongue as far out as possible and then try and vocalize. That makes you really work that out. Then you get tired easier, and that was a traditional kind of learning method to get that happening. If that does anything for it.
Let's differentiate between
Yeah. Should we do 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 6, 7, 6, 5?
It's kind of
backwards.
going up and
Up and
down.
down.
Yeah, up
Yeah,
there.
up and down.
Okay. 5, 6, 7. So 3 of them, and then go back down again.
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 6, 5. 6, 7, 6, 5. Let's try that. Okay.
And maybe we can repeat it a few times.
Yeah.
That's
Go.
right.
Yeah. So we'll keep it in the 3s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. 3, 4.
noticed some people were actually tonguing a few of the other notes. Try not to. But so one tonguing, 3 vibratos.
Yeah, I was going to get him to do that. Yeah, we're trying to, people concentrating on getting the ha. So try the first bit with a ha.
Don't tongue the vibrato. I think.
No. So just at the start of the 3s. So it's getting is new for me, is getting the tongue at the lips, not at the teeth. So it's more a pop, isn't it? Sort of.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Would you also back off the tone, the volume a little? So
Yeah.
we go, so it's softer.
Yeah. So give it a go. So just 5 up to 7 and down again, and if it's harmony, it doesn't really matter. 3, 4.
Wow, it sounds great. I see a lot. I hear that people are getting it right. So, but those 2 exercises, gradual. It's something that will bring you a bit of gradual improvement. So, maybe a good warm-up thing to do. But
Have a seat if you want.
yeah, the tonguing. I would say if you all have an Ika, which is a smaller, that would be easier to.
What's the
The
small?
small.
Now we can't. So we don't have these. We start with multis, so we
Okay.
don't. So we can work up the top.
Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, we can play all the notes then. Yeah. So we've got a set of securies, and they're the same for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can
In the
practice high.
smaller tubes, you practice that. And that's a good thing it's a very important action. And and then you get faster and then you'll notice that you can add that to your other techniques,
So it would be normal in a band for, if there's vibrato, for everyone to be playing the vibrato. Firstly, everyone to be playing the vibrato on long notes, and secondly, in the same timing, because we've never thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, it would just make it sound. You'd be able to concentrate a bit more on listening to the harmonies and the melodies, and that would make it more orchestrated if you have the same vibrato.
Yeah.
Even though in Bolivia there are people that are, you'd have to say, purists that like to keep the very rough essence of the autochthonal music, the pre-Columbian stuff. Say, especially the Aymara tradition of rhythms is something that I'm really thankful you guys are, keeping alive.
Okay. So
When it comes to the actual tube, blowing into the tubes, I mentioned about if you source all your instruments at once, because the nature of the tubes, diameter compared to length is very important. There is a tone that most people strive for, which is kind of a little bit of a growl, and very rarely do you get the whole pan flute that has got every tube that's balanced in that way. So you can see the tone and a kind of a rattling kind of.
yeah, is that when the actual tube is vibrating? Is that the tube itself vibrating?
Well, scientifically, I'm not too sure what of the tube makes it vibrate like that, but yeah, I know if the tube is too thick, the diameter is too thick, then you won't have that. If it's too thin as well, it'll be harder to get that. So if you all source your instruments from the same place, it probably also improve and maybe unify your sound in some way. But that's, we can't all help it. I mean,
Yeah, so
In general, these are all sourced from the same.
yeah, but that's the. I'm trying to remember the provenance of these. Was this from Milan?
Yes, these ones were.
Yeah, so I think these are.
At the same time.
Yeah. So I suppose the thing is, how do you know when you get the sound that you want? Is it from a sound or is it from a feel?
It's from the sound. So you normally I would play the tube, the pan flute, and if a tube doesn't have that, it's either broken or it's just got the wrong dimensions. You know, too thick a diameter to the length of the tube, or
So is it the wall thickness or the tube diameter?
the tube diameter.
Tube diameter.
Yeah. Wall thickness affects it, like you mentioned, Cochabamba pipes, which are thicker. The Zongo ones, which mostly I use, very thin wall,
Yeah.
a lot delicate, but easier to get that growl that I was talking about. No?
So can you play it without growl and with growl?
All right, I'll see if I can find a dud tube here. That's a dud tube. That is too thin for the diameter of the top. So no matter how I blow that, that's always going to be a bit duller. We won't have the brightness that. So that's when that comes into when it comes to assembling your arsenal of instruments that you have for everyone. So, and when you pick them, when you go to buy them, you know, and that I asked also before if you guys tie them up yourselves, because I'm constantly doing that. And the people that play, especially Bolivian people, they'll be weekly, not weekly, but every month, we'll be, okay, that's gone, put another one in there, retie it up.
So
it's so
Annie and Karen, sort of, you did it
So
with
I
Annie.
retied mine, yeah, but I was going to ask you about that. Is there some kind of maintenance that one has to do for the pipes? Or what about if you tie them too tight? Or doesn't that matter? 'Cause
Oh,
no.
I mean, you don't want it too tight, but the one maintenance that I do is get those straw brushes that they have now, just get in there, and because your build-up will be dark there, and you want to, once that dries, you want to scrape that off. But apart from that, there's very little maintenance. Being raw wood, this wood absorbs so much moisture, and
So those are quite loose compared to ours.
Yeah, that's why these ones keep coming loose. I'm constantly trying to retie them. They just keep sliding.
probably got to do with the string, because it has to be. I mean, it's hard to find elastic sort of string, but there is some. I've got like a waxed string that I use, and that seems to kind of expand with the tube, because the tubes on hot weather they'll expand and shrink. So
that's more. Is that the string or is that?
no,
cloth?
this is just cotton.
Cotton.
Yeah, this is not my. This is just a practice instrument,
Yeah.
but the string. I've noticed that in Bolivia they were using this black
Is it that?
shoemaker string.
So it's not. It's
very
different.
similar.
It's different to that.
Okay.
It's a bit thicker and it just seems a bit elastic because of that. Because the pipes will expand in the hot weather, and
So you can you would replace some pipes then? 'Cause I don't
Yeah, I normally take out tubes and take it all apart and then retie it again.
We're scared.
Yeah, I can run through that with some people, whoever's interested in learning that. These I've made all myself. These ones.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've got the bamboo yourself and you.
I've got lots of pipes and
okay.
yeah.
And you cut them and,
Yeah. Especially working with other styles of music, they throw really weird tunings at you, and they say, "Oh, have you got a pamphlet in F sharp minor?" And I thought, I have to make it.
Yeah, so we in fact have a whole lot of extra pipes. We have a lot, but we've never got into doing things. Maybe just explain a little bit about that in terms of if you have to replace a pipe and how you tune the new pipe, like it might be a bit long.
Okay. The way that I do it, see, this cane is very flaky, so you would never sand this, or you would get a very sharp knife, like a standing knife, and make the incision. And
So you're cutting
Yeah.
a slit around.
yeah, there are. I used to use with the Cochabamba pipes, it's a thicker cane. You can use the tube cutters from Bunnings, you know, the PVC cutters, with the ones you put on and they kind of a spinny. You can use that. It has to be very sharp or it will splinter and then you whole tube will be ruined. But once again, trying to go back to the Bolivian things that I got, a lot of people would use a lot of wax in the tubes, down the tube,
So that's to sharpen it.
to sharpen the tubes.
Yeah.
So you would cut it very long, you know, so it'd be very flat, and then you bring it up according to what. You know.
Right.
Okay, so you.
So-
oh, yeah.
So the problem I've had, because I have had one of these fall completely apart, is how do you start it? How do you start the tying so that you can get a couple of them together without all falling apart again?
Okay, yeah, it's a bit tricky, but I mean, I wish I could show you. Actually, I will.
Oh.
Normally you would look. I don't want to pull it apart.
Yeah.
But I can show you. I can send you. It's a short video of me tying some up.
that would be
Yeah,
good.
that'd
Yeah.
be really useful.
Yeah.
And you can do it by yourself because Annie, it took two people, didn't it? You,
Yeah, we do it together.
yeah, Karen and Annie to sort of like hold the
Hold it.
side bit and then put. So that'd actually be really
So
useful.
yeah, seeing the technique of how you tie it would be really good.
Yeah, I'll video myself and I'll send it to Tony.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Or put it on YouTube. You'll like, you know, if it's too long, if it's the video's too big.
Yeah.
Oh, we can work it out, Bruce.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
you can
worries.
throw it up on.
YouTube sounds very appropriate.
Yeah, you can throw it up on the top or something and pull it down.
Wow. Yeah, that'd be great. I didn't know that you'd be. I would gladly be able to demo, you know, the tying up and the cutting of tubes, which is I do a lot. I do that a lot. Where I do
Yeah,
tuning with notes and.
We're probably at that stage of, because we've had some of these for so long, so we're at that stage. And we've got the equipment, we've got all the tubes.
Well, I've got a box full of bits of tubes that came from the last two that fell apart that I had replaced. I can practice on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Awesome.
A couple of credit ones.
What sort of wax and how do you get it down the bottom?
Okay. Just standard candle wax.
Yeah.
Usually works for the bigger tubes because they're the ones that would be, you don't want to be cutting up too much, and basically just get it down, drip it down, and then you can scrape it off as well if you need to. That was one technique I saw. Within Camargue and a lot of the busking bands, they used the mung beans.
We've tried that.
Carry a little thing of mung beans and
Yeah, then they fall out.
or pebbles of lentils, but
Yeah, you want something that stays in there. So is there a way to get it so that it doesn't dribble down the side?
well,
or-
the thing is that the buskers, we were playing outdoors, so you know you'd be doing 10 degree or 40 degree, and you wouldn't keep the seats in there. You'd take them out, then you tune it again the next time, according to the weather.
So we have done that before, haven't we?
We've had mung beans before.
Yeah.
Mung beans,
It was just that thing of,
They drop out.
Drop out.
That's what's going to happen, they drop out. That's okay.
I'm sure somebody would come up with some sort of stoppage, like a cork, so I don't know.
Yeah, but it makes sense that if the weather, you know, you tune just like a string instrument, you tune to the weather.
Every time.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh, you already did it. Well done.
Oh.
Tune in. Well, there's a few things I could say about the technique that will help you with tuning up a little bit. I noticed that a lot of you were doing your embouchure pretty well. You're getting that thin stream of air, thin as possible. You would want to try and put your top lip slightly above the bottom lip if you can, you know, but still keeping that very thin stream of air. But the one thing that will really affect your pitch would be the angle in which you hold the pan flute. Okay? You would have seen European pan flutes, how they have an angle cutting, and they really go for that, and they get the semitones, they get a chromatic range from an antara basically. You know? in Andean flutes, it will give you a little bit of tuning. If you bring your lips over, the tube will lower a bit. Also, if you change the angle, kind of towards your body, will give you up the pitch a bit, and of course, the opposite will lower it. It's one of the ways that you can tune. So together with the mung beans and that, maybe, you know.
Is that also a style of sometimes you want to bend? No.
It's a pretty, because you don't have the cutting that European pan flutes have. It's hard. You can't really get a whole semitone, so it's not very musical. I've seen like some professional players that will stick to their technique where they like that, and they'll play at all times like that because they got used to tuning themselves like that. You know. Not many Andean pan flutes will be really going like that, except for experimental jazzy people. You know, in Bolivia there's a few that will be bending notes, trying to bend notes. You know?
Okay, so it's not really part of the
Pre-Columbian tradition.
No, it's something that just you'll be aware that that you will lower your tone. You know, kind of bring your lip over the tube. Yeah.
A lot of what we play while walking or marching,
Yeah.
because that's what we do. So it's also a little tricky sometimes because you're moving your whole body, and so keeping that constant is a little bit tricky. But by the same token, we're aiming for that country style of roughness.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say, Tony and Jenny?
That's the theory, but what I'm interested in is knowing the technique so that we can play.
So we have control over
We have control.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have control. So when we want to have something so we want to have the vibrato all together, and
Yeah.
the concert thing, that we know how to do that, so that you bring in things as you know how to do it.
Yeah.
in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing from watching the videos that is a great part of your performance. You know, when you do the walking and when you walk into the concert area, and when you do the you know, kind of on the spot. One thing that I noticed that in bands like that when they do that they would sometimes have the rhythm section separately if you really want to concentrate on the marching and on the playing. So bombo and snare would be in the middle or at the back, you know. And sometimes there will be, you know, splash, but that's something you can explore. The actual walking in with the drums looks amazing as well, you know, and it fits with the traditional style. But
So now I think like it's usually Bruce and I, but we'll try to play at the same time. So I know when you see some of the huge mass groups, there'll be a whole set of drummers.
yeah.
That's all they do. Other people play, but we usually don't have enough. So yeah, I mean that's also reasonable to have drum and pipe together, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, all the busking bands here, we do it all the time, out of just sheer wanting to sound bigger. I don't know if I did hear somebody plays the snare or used to play the snare. Yeah. Okay. Oh, cool. So, were you marching along?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's good because that's tricky.
I can't play it.
You need to hit.
And usually with the snare, I do like the bombos are doing the on-beat and I do the off-beat.
The offbeat,
variations.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I would work on, you know, to like getting that independently of the winds. Basically, just to explore, you know, the different rhythms, how the snares and the drum work with each other, and usually that will give you the marching beats. There are some rhythms that are easier to match, like the cantu.
Yeah.
Did you get it here?
I think, was it you, Gav, that did the canto beat? Yeah, it's a different, oh no, it's my bell. Yeah, played that. So,
Yeah.
it's a special beat.
Yeah, it's very straight and it's designed to be danced in a circle kind of scenario, usually singing, but a lot of the time with the pan flutes doing the the harmonies, the fourth harmonies.
What's the country beat?
Oh, there was a structure.
Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah, it was very structured.
Something like that.
It was very structured. It had a whole rhythm to it that was in a way independent a bit of our tune, but it works together. It's a cantu beat.
Yeah, it's like a specific style,
It's a
right?
specific
Yeah,
style.
or pre-Columbian pan flute or Bolivian folk. Yeah.
Yeah, so Bruce is usually the one that works out the pattern.
Yeah.
If we're not sure what to do, we'll just do it on the beat. But Bruce quite often works out a pattern.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes one of them. Well, it's something isn't it? That's the hard one because that has a structured beat that took us ages to learn how to play along with it. Yeah.
There's one of the challenges for us or unknowns is rhythms that go with the tunes we play, because most of the tunes we play, we don't have a given rhythm.
Okay.
We haven't got something that we can learn from.
Okay.
So we've had to make up the accompaniment and the rhythm.
Okay.
But,
Wow. Well, it sounds great, and it sounds like you guys have really done a lot of work. A lot of even bands in South America are not too sure how to go about that because there's not really a lot of written rules and kind of no one has really published a lot of this information. There's a couple of people that I could put you in touch with that real in Bolivia that could talk to you for hours about why the canto is like that, or why the sicuriada has to be 3 times over, not 4, or
It would be quite good to learn the provenance of some of the tunes. It's just whether what we call them is what they're known as.
Yeah.
I mean, we've sort of collected them from different people, but we're not.
Like open shut then.
Tutoras is, it's.
What might be helpful would be if you could help us to identify the rhythms that go with some of the tunes.
Okay.
So we learned that Ojos Azules was a wino, I think. And so we researched a wino rhythm to go with that.
Yeah.
And that works really well.
Okay.
But we don't necessarily associate a particular rhythm with the other pieces that we do.
Absolutely, we can. I could only listen and say what I would do,
Yeah.
Right.
and with some knowledge of the autochthonous style,
That you could give us some links to.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. There's always someone out there that would have done it. And,
that'd be useful.
yeah.
Why don't we do open shut them and find a rhythm?
Yeah.
Tutoras, so you can do that. First, should we get the drums? Sure.
Wow, that sounds great to me. Would you think? Is this one of the songs you use while marching?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So do we know the provenance of the Tutoras?
Yeah, I got it off a Inti Illimani recording.
Okay, so there would be a beat for that one. Maybe we should
I should check back if they have a rhythm and what it is.
Yeah,
Didn't
so,
think of doing that.
The way that I would do that, I like what you're doing. If you're going to do marching, I would do the snare as well. And there's certain beats that really the snare makes it special. They use a lot of the triplets in this type of.
and that's the Bruce.
And that's
Yeah,
really
I like that.
makes it really drives it and
Yeah.
for that type of rhythm.
Yeah.
There's other ones that really don't need this, like the cantu is a lot slower. That would not have any snare, you know.
No, it has the way we did it in Perth was with a triangle as well.
Okay,
The-
that's
the-
right. The middle, yeah.
The big metal sort of triangle there. Should we? Oh, we did talk a little bit about how we sing.
Okay.
You made up. didn't you?
Before we play
No,
Ojos,
that
can
was
I
the
ask
one
a
that-
question that I had about vibrato that we moved on before I had a chance to ask it? The thing about doing it sort of rhythmically with the rhythm, so would you do something like da 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 da
Yeah.
da da da? Would you do it like that? Or?
Bruce, that's the one. That's the one. The pattern we do now is the wino rhythm that we picked up from that goes with Ojos.
But
But I'm
no,
talking
but-
specifically about the vibrato.
Vibrato.
Da,
Oh,
da,
sorry.
da,
Sorry.
da, 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 da. So,
Well, for that song, I'm not too sure, but because I've heard it as a whino, like a singing melody, so I don't associate it as a marching kind of
Yeah.
pre-Columbian tune.
And you wouldn't, in a singing song, you wouldn't necessarily put vibrato.
not when you're singing, no.
No, but in
I-
the,
But
in
But when
the
you're
words,
just doing the instrumental.
yes, as far as what I get from Bruce asking
Yeah.
is we wouldn't always do triplets or
Yeah.
something. It's the vibrato in a piece naturally sits in with what the timing is of the piece. So sometimes it might be 4
Yeah.
in the
That is
vibrato.
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on if you like that's, like say, if you get into synchronizing your vibrato, making them all sound the same, then it may take away from the rest of the melody.
Yeah.
So
Whereas if you do like a marching, like a very monotonous cantu, then it really needs that kind of. I wouldn't put it in that tune.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Any vibrato or not the structured vibrato?
I would put just if you have a lot of you playing that melody, then I probably, unless you're all doing kind of something very similar, I would stick to no vibrato for that type of tune. You know.
maybe one thing is I Want Tennis, that's the name of the group. So Michel was saying that's a group really known for its vibrato.
Yeah, for it's it's siku playing.
Yeah, so maybe if we do a little bit of homework on just what they do and when they do it, so we can learn about, okay, that's a technique that we can put in or not put in.
That's a really good band to listen to. In about their last 4 or 5 albums, they always include a random track, like a 10-20 minute track of just pre-Columbian tunes, like a medley.
Wow.
They go from cantu to italaques to tarcas. They do like a whole compilation, apart from their normal other stuff. So highly recommended, and they're blowing the technique of what I was talking about, the bending of notes, the synchronized vibratos. It's just mind blowing, you know. So that's
Somebody to aspire to, Tony.
Take one
What
over
was the
here.
name of the band again? What was the
I
name?
Want Tennis.
Aguatinas.
Oh,
Aguatinas. I will send the details to Tony, and
Okay, any other questions? Ojos?
No,
the pronunciation was great. The phrasing.
That's my bell.
Well done, Mabel. Some of the phrasing was a little bit different to what I'm used to hearing it. Llorarás cuando me vaya. But
That's what I sing. And it goes well. It's just what I learned and I played it like that for 30 years. But it goes well with what the others.
And you guys are singing it well together. which is great,
In fact, I listened to it again and the pipe playing is different to the singing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's different.
It is.
You guys are llorarás cuando. Is that what you were doing now, right?
Yeah, but most,
And there's some other part that also the phrasing is kind of straightened out.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, you could work on doing it the same as the flutes, like you just said, Tony. But pronunciation was great.
Sometimes we play the guitar with it because I play guitar.
Okay.
And I do what the way that I normally have done it, which is more like
Yeah.
what you just said, but it fits.
It does fit. Yeah, yeah.
It's an original.
Yeah.
And we
It's
do
your
walk,
arrangement.
we do walk with this as well. So we'll walk around with this.
The good thing is that you're all doing it together, and it's deliberate. So it's it's quite good. Pronunciation is great. You know.
So what about the strength of us singing or the...
Well,
How can we improve?
Yeah.
Could there be harmony in it?
yeah. Well, the harmonies. I heard some people.
Yeah, I'm doing a little one.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else is, but I've worked out
Well,
a
I usually put in harmonies because I'm a tenor and I've practiced harmonies for most of my life.
lie.
But you wanted me to sing the fundamental to keep it going last time.
Yeah, I know, I did.
Do you have ever a accompanist for this song, like a guitarist or a keyboardist?
I played
Yeah,
Charango with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have charango.
But that would make it easier for, say, somebody to step in and do harmonies. Otherwise, then you get weird harmonies happening, you know. But
Yeah, so it's that thing of sometimes you'll hear the living groups and it's like when they sing it's full on, like they're really strong and there's there's sort of these tight harmonies, but they're usually very much parallel.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's a very forceful singing sound, very...
So is it more of an organum then? Fifths?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Because
very
that's what I
low.
hear when we play.
We sang it really low.
Really low. What key are you in? Yeah.
Well, the singing.
Is that you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the right...
Yeah.
Unless you sing up the octave.
Yeah. Well, if that is something you're gonna consider, working on harmonies and arrangement, maybe play with the key, but then the flutes become an issue,
Yeah.
right?
But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
thing is, it's
gotta
got
fit.
an F sharp, so you
Yeah.
have to work it out.
You can do.
That's what we do.
What we did when we were singing with the choir that Mabel was in one stage was swap harps and we played.
that's right.
Yes.
You played the eras played the same thing on the archetypes and
We
we
swapped
swapped
pipes.
higher.
Yeah, that was it, yeah.
It works, it is okay.
Yeah, we swapped on it, yeah.
Was that with Ojos or with Paya Maya?
No, it was Ojos. Yeah, no, it was with Ojos, yeah.
Okay.
But I suppose I'm interested in, are we too straight with our singing or western or choral? Yeah, should we be stronger or
Honestly, it reminds me a little bit of, say, church singing.
yes?
Yeah.
Because we're all kind of unison, doing the same thing. If you wanted to work on this, I would maybe get a couple of people to do just two harmonies and everyone else doing an accompaniment, kind of a hum or to vary it up. If you really wanted to improve that part or put more emphasis in the vocal. If there's, like you said, you could do harmonies if someone else. And that in Timari do a lot of that. They do a lot of vocals with backing, kind of accompanying with vocals. That sounds amazing. It's a lot of work. But for me, it sounded great. The unison, pronunciation was amazing. And I like the changing of the phrasing to fit what you guys are doing if you're marching.
Did you have a chance to listen to that drum which you worked out? I think just that it's reasonably simple, but there was just a little bit of every third bar or something. We slightly changed.
I noticed that it fits the melody, which is
Yes.
great. It doesn't clash with the melody, which is what you want. Yeah.
But is this to that song or that style of song? Is there a style of drum?
Oh, for the guaño or Ojos Azules, like you said, it's a guaño, but I've seen it played as like a fast dancing guaño, Peruvian style, or a real, like in the Yimani do like a slow, melancholic guaño, you know, which has got no bombo. So basically what you decide to do would be, and that sounds great, you know, it fits the melody, fits the arrangement and style that you guys do.
Okay. Another question. Yeah, so is that, I mean, that's a reasonably popular song. In terms of trying to work out a singing style, is that maybe listening to a few different people singing it in a group and see how they do it and what harmonies they do?
Yeah, I play this song all the time with different bands here, and usually, you know, the main melody and the third below, that's what I do. If we have more people that sing, then, you know, the third above, you know.
But it is very much parallel.
It is parallel, and it depends how creative you are. I mean, if you have so many of you, I would do, you know, get your two strong singers to sing it in harmonies, and then everyone else doing an accompaniment. That's what I would do.
I'm just sort of thinking, because our sort of Western European tendency is to get the choir and everybody comes down to the same sort of level, but we've got different singers with different strength voices, and I feel like the strong singers should sing strong and sit down, and those of us who are not so confident can be filling in the
absolutely.
Not go for that sort of churchy sound, be very even, but really try and get sort of readiness into the.
I would, because you got the number to make it sound good, and you already have the musicality, the knowledge here to do harmonies and
So when you're doing a group, not as many of you, but when you're singing, do you feel like you're being forceful, or that's just the way you sing?
Yeah, sometimes we're a bit over the top when we are singing, trying to be a bit operatic, which, you know, but
just on the speed that we sing it, or slowness, speed, whatever you describe, would you describe that as typical speed, or would you usually sing it faster or slower? And could you give us a demonstration?
This is a Peruvian song. I've done it with the Peruvian community, and they sing this as a guaño, but a dancing guaño, which is very fast. Very fast.
So could you sing it faster for us?
Is there a guitar around at all? Sorry, I wouldn't have mine, but
there is it's been tuned and it's steel. It hasn't been tuned for a long time.
Oh, it's okay, no problem. I'll just demonstrate to you. The melody itself is not fast, it's the accompaniment that's faster. It's Ojos azules, no llores, no llores, si te enamores. Ojos azules, no llores, no llores, si me enamores. No lloras cuando te enamores. That's how. But I love the Yimani version, which is very similar to the speed that you guys do.
Right.
Okay.
But
there are many versions.
so many versions. It is a guaño, but people do take that word as a general blanket term for a lot of styles of music. Guaño is, I always explain to people that ask a musical question, what is a guaño? It's like, oh man, what's 12-bar blues, you know? You can have so many different types, and guaño is one of those. You can have Argentinian, Chilean style guaño, Peruvian, very strong, that's the birthplace of the guaño. But then, a lot of people, there are tunes that they don't know what they are, but they call it a guaño because they do it. Sometimes people identify the guaño as that pattern. 1, 2, 1, 2. But that's of course Azules. But I love your version.
Yeah, we'll stick to it.
People happy to have an interval?
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about specifically, you know, the actual blowing technique into the tube, which for me is very important, and especially in Bolivia, work a lot on that. You know, there seems to be a very long learning curve for like children that are learning what you do first, what you move on to after that. You know, you go from the Inca to the Malta, and then the process of splitting that up and learning to coordinate with other people. Unfortunately, I work a lot on just being a solo performer, so I do use a lot of the 2 rows. And a lot of the info won't apply, but it's a good thing to have, to know. As I was mentioned before, that the angle in which the tube is pointing can affect the tuning and can affect how nice the note is. So when you put the 2 rows, which you have to be aware of that. See, some people would be, and then you'll be throwing your tune all over the place. So if you ever do explore the whole pan flute, the Malta, that's something that you need to keep, that the angle in which it's going will change a bit. So, and also when you put the 2 rows together, sometimes you buy a Malta from the shops and they'll be tied up in that manner. And you'll be up. And that will have many, apart from the tuning being that the bottom row will be completely dull. And that will be nice and bright, so that's another thing you need to keep in mind. And a big one, and maybe a lot of people that would have seen Inca Marca performing when we do on stages where we have just an individual mic for everyone, is mic placement. If you ever, you guys are a big ensemble, so you have usually choir mics?
No, we can have sort of more, if we do on stage there, what do you call atmosphere ones?
The ambience.
Overhead,
Yeah.
Ambient, yeah.
But if you're ever in the situation where you do have a unidirectional microphone or vocal microphone, which is what most stages or festivals will have, typical mistake to put the microphone here, in which you will get the top row having very bright, breathy, and the bottom, so you really place it here, pointing down. And that would work good for antaras and what you guys do as well. But I don't think you guys are ever going to be where you have all individual mics to worry about. But that's a good.
Hopefully not.
But the blowing, especially in the Aymara tradition of playing in Bolivia, parts of Bolivia, sticking your top lip over your bottom lip is sometimes, it looks a bit silly, and you see some people and it looks a bit silly, but there is something to that technique that makes it better. So together with creating the thin stream of air and sticking your lip out in a way, not a little bit, you probably be improving your technique if you're aware that that it needs to point down and that angle. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you visualise half in, half out with that, or is there, or more in?
Well, when I play, the edge of the tube there is resting on my bottom lip, and then I'm covering out tape a bit more than half the tube.
So going in, yeah.
So the lip is going to hang in So that's something to work on with your individual technique. But that initial attack is probably one of the more important exercises. But just remember not to put air or force into it. You don't put air or force into it's just the clicking of the air that's in your mouth and the lips and the tongue. I'm not using
Yeah, so that's the tongue against the lips, not tongue against the nose. Oh.
spit. The same action as a spit.
And look, it's like a watermelon piece.
Yeah.
So that's something you have to hold it and go.
Precisely. I didn't want to say it, but if you had something to spit out, that action. disgusting.
I just had a question about the deeper ones. Is the idea that get more into the pipe or air?
Yeah, I mean, it's always tricky, but yeah, if you clean up your technique by thinning the stream, and then you can get not so much air is going everywhere else apart from the tube, and try and get that growl. So the spitting action,
Starts
the vibrato, and the angle, and the good tube, we should all make you have a better technique so you can use those notes, the tone.
Is there much more to the growl than the quality of the tube, or
If the quality of the tube is not there, you will never
you
get
never
that
get
growl.
it? But
You
if
will
you've got a good tube, is there something extra that you need?
I would start by first of all finding the angle, because not everyone's going to play at the same angle. Like as I said before, there are some professional players that they're kind of are leaning over the pipe, and so it's just getting the perfect amount of air into the tube. Try and work on that embouchure. Try and do. Some people look really funny, like but it's up to you that your jaw shape, but no, the thin stream, the firm attack will help a bit because that will set the tone, for the rest of the sustain. The tube is the biggest factor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure it's not broken and it's not too thick in diameter.
And just, you mentioned the thin stream, and that's really important. Is there what you visualise in that? Like, I think of a cat's bum, basically.
The cat's bum is like.
So is it more? Yeah. So what? How do you teach that to have a thin stream, or?
Okay. By doing the spitting action, that'll get you kind of targeting your air into a small pocket. Because if you're not doing it right, you won't get a note. So you should be able to tell what note it is. If you're doing too big of an opening, then you'll get you want to get the.
Only the very tip of your tongue might. No, it's too big. That's too big.
Yeah.
Can you just remind us where your tongue should be when you do the spitting? Is it just behind, like your upper
It's
lip?
behind both your lips, but almost about to stick it out, but not quite.
Yeah. You're in front of your teeth.
Like the lady said before, if you have something here like a grain of sand, that's the action you want to spit
Oh,
it
so
out.
it's like you touch something on your tongue, you can't
And
spit it.
from the tip of your
Yeah,
tongue.
okay.
It's disgusting, but that's the way.
What I've found when I'm doing it is that when I'm playing the bigger tubes, there's more of an overbite and I'm sort of blowing down more into it. So, but when you get up higher, it's sort of more over and a tighter lip. Is that right?
Yeah, well, you need less air, and it's easier to sustain the higher tubes, the smaller tubes. I mean, long tubes are always tricky. The good part, that's when good parts come in. Apart from the ascending length, there should be slightly ascending diameters in tubes as well, so they shouldn't be too uneven. If you see a part that's got all over the place and you're okay, this hasn't been thought out properly, so go to the next part maybe. Or if you can learn to tie them together and to notice, you can pick and match and pick, That's what I do, that's what a lot of people do. They have boxes of tubes and constantly sharpen things.
But is that thing of having that small, even in the deep ones, you have a concentrated air.
Yeah, well, you need to always have the thinnest possible. You don't want to have excess air. Well, that's when that's a bit a tricky one because if you want to be a purist for autochthonal music, they require a dirty tube. They require overtones. In fact, you would have seen the pan flutes that have the hollow.
Yeah, the cantu.
Yeah. And they're designed for you to blow really dirty, because then the overtones will go through that the air and will create another harmony. You know.
Okay.
And this is just the technique that I've come across from just pan flute playing.
Yeah, so it's just learning the technique and when to use it, and so you know what you're doing. And
Tony, given we've got some time when people are away, and we may not have as many, I don't know if we'll have practice or not, but we might have some time when we're more on our own. It'd be a really good chance to put some time into just blowing and getting the noise. And I remember when we did the workshops before the Yapu gig, we did some just blowing. Alex just said, just blow. Don't worry about the notes, just blow. And I remember that through that experience, I found the pipes were really starting to vibrate in a way I hadn't experienced before. And that experience combined with a bit of reading and talking to my brother, Andy, who makes instruments and thinking about how they work. It's all about, well, a lot of it is thinking this not as a pipe but as a column of air. And what you're trying to do is get that column of air ringing, vibrating. So it's a little bit like a spring. You're pushing down a spring and you want to get to vibrate. And if you push too gently, it doesn't vibrate. But that's where that percussive start really helps. It's like giving it a kick to energise this bouncing spring of air in the thing. And I find that a really helpful concept to try and get the right sound, to think of how can I energise that column of air.
That's already in the pipe.
Inside the pipe. So it's not focusing on hitting the edge right, it's about energising that column of air.
You're trying to make the pipe ring.
Yeah, and when it does, I think you can actually feel the pipe starts to vibrate a bit more.
Absolutely, and anything that's in the tube will affect that vibration. You know, how smooth I was saying about the wax, that really ruins a lot of the pipes. So you wouldn't never do it on a small flute. You always do it on the big, the chilies, the toys, right?
I think a really important thing about what you said and why we got really good around that time of that Iliaku gig was because we were all just practicing and blowing with some guidance, and now we've had some guidance from you about the blowing technique, but to get it right we each need to do it quite a bit on our own with nobody listening.
so that's
I play like nobody's listening.
That's why Bruce is videoing this, and I mean, hopefully not with too much editing. But
I'm just quite interested, and I'm new to the group, so you've probably done. So please correct me if I'm wrong, Tony. So, but I'm interested in just respecting the cultural side of where the pipes come from, and I was wondering if there's anything you recommend about that, any rituals that you might do, or any acknowledgements or things like that, or because we're all quite wary of misappropriating as well.
Okay, that's a good question. We were talking about that earlier, and I think, I mean, you guys, Samponistas do that great at, informing the audience, and the style itself is something, non-commercial, it's something cultural, and I mean, that's, for me, you guys do a great job of promoting this, and to my knowledge, there's no real, apart from, verbally saying that, that you acknowledge that this is, for me, because of my personal experience and growing up, it's the Aymara side of, culture to do with pan flutes. That's northern Chile, and in Bolivia, that's the, but there's no formalized acknowledgement apart from when you get up on stage and say it. I mean, the few publications and websites. That's you guys do great at it, and
You could just tell them a bit about it's more between the Peruvians and the Bolivians.
Yeah. I mean, it is the native people that have a native connection. They always talk about the Tahuantinsuyo, which is
The what, sorry?
the Tahuantinsuyo, the Inca Empire, the four corners. That's basically what it means. Northern Andes, central, south, and that's basically this is kind of the flagship of that. And just saying that is for me is enough. Of an acknowledgement and show some research which you guys seem to do really well. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking about getting some context in terms of people that know about this music in better depth than us, and just peppering them with sort of questions about, okay, what's the history of provenance of this, which I sort of tried with Carlos, but never. I didn't get as much as I wanted back. Yeah.
So when I didn't quite understand, when you say this is the black sheep of the...
No, flagship.
The
So this would have been the primary instrument for the Incan Empire?
For just the Aymara people,
Right.
because I can only talk from what I know, the Aymara, and it's all to do with wind instruments. Aymara people have an incredible amount of wind instruments and different tropas, like you mentioned, different ensembles of different whistles and flutes, and it's always about the aerophones. It's never anything else. The percussion accompaniment is straightforward, simple. In ancient times, it would have been just the drums, not even a snare, and so it's all about the wind and the breath and the different tones that different sorts of cane gives you. It's all cane as well. So yeah, that's. I always talk about that when I try and explain to people what the culture is like and what the Aymara, do. And of course, we all would have heard the stories of in the Inca Empire, the pan flute player would be an actual ranking member of society, alongside a priest. Yeah, so, but yeah, then you can delve into that and go on forever.
Oh, yeah, and so talked a bit about technique, other things about technique, or how to play softly but well.
Yeah.
Is there any?
Once
trick?
again, I don't really, my personal choice, I go a lot more for the smaller tubes in the same fashion as the European flutes, the pan flutes. Higher tones, because you got more control over them. You can really pitch your way up and down and.
So what's that instrument?
This is an antara.
Okay.
Antara. So it's basically the same as a malta, but just in one row.
Oh, all the tubes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's not much kind of pre-Columbian indigenous music that's done in this fashion, but for me it makes a traditional instrument, kind of gives it another lisp, so these are very thin tubes, compared to so you want the different technique, but I like the high pitch, but it's hard to control, hard to tune, and they're very piercing, but it takes more technique and care to make it more musical. But
Play a little bit.
Yeah.
Please.
yeah. So that's a completely different sound. Could be a different instrument, to say like the semitoyo as a name. But
You're doing the vibrato there by moving
Yeah.
the pipe.
That comes from the European style.
Yeah.
The pan flutists, the Romanian, German,
Yeah.
they
And
do
those
that.
ones with the
Yes,
Those ones
they've
are-
got an angle kind of cut here, so it's easier to bend the notes, and And they're made out of wood. They carve them out of wood. So, not cane, but
It's not bamboo.
But that's a South American version.
that's well, this is an Antara. It's a the Naimara tradition, and the cane is different. From what I remember, it being told to me that this cane can only be found in a certain part of around La Paz. It's very thin and very straight. And so it just goes to show that when it comes to the wind instruments, that's all they had to play with, and they came up with so many variations of similar instruments.
Can you play some more?
Okay.
Is there any trick, or is it done much where you play softly? Well,
that's what I brought this up. Smaller tubes, you can play a bit softer and kind of watch your tone a bit more, Still very piercing, but just the nature of the raw cane,
What I'm asking is, we have Bruce writes music and sings, and he has a song called the Amazon.
Okay.
And not that we'll do it today,
We don't have to play.
but we play background to that, but it's very quiet and it's very smooth, so there's not that attack.
Okay.
So it's more
Sort of like a
It's more the mood.
yeah, and so it's very undercurrent.
Okay.
But I don't. Is there any? Does that ring a bell in terms of any?
Liters we do that.
Well, some bands they do use just the breath on the flute, and if you hear a lot of the Bolivian bands, especially, they play around with this a lot with it.
So you're sticking your lips out there.
It's the same technique, but just no attack and no kind of tonguing.
Yeah.
It sounds breathy, but once you microphone it properly and get that breath out of the, it's quite a nice technique. I can give you a link of bands when they do that once again.
I think that is what everyone is doing in that song.
Well, I'm just looking at Michel's lips, so it looks different. It looks more open. Rather than tight. So does that make sense?
I'm just noticing that I do open up that opening a bit more.
Yeah, I think it's just a bit more controlled than say what I do. So it's still still have a circle for the air to come out, but it's doing this here. So that might be the technique for when we want to be breathy.
It's hard to get that breathy, well for me anyway, that breathy quiet note without running out of breath. So is there any tips on that?
Well, basically you just need to narrow down your opening here, and that'll just come with practice. You just a lot of your air is going up in the tube, but as well around the tube. Just maybe as you play, as you practice, try and hear that the tone. I mean, the note has to be as clean as possible. If you hear that means that you're throwing air to the other tubes around as well. But also breathe, deep breathe. And if you do your diaphragm, you can really build that up, and you're breathing well, if you're a
I think that's really important because I know a lot of members of the group get like dizzy when we play for a while, and I think that's because you're wasting breath. Because I think that if you're playing properly and really directing that air, you're not using very much breath. In fact, and
using the whole of your lungs, not just. A lot of people just breathe really shallowly, but if you breathe.
So I think that's something that
most
you can really learn
people,
from.
especially as you get older, you tend to breathe just chest breath.
Absolutely.
But what you want is that real yoga breath where you go right down here and then so there's nothing up here. It's all down here, and then when you compress your lower diaphragm, you're controlling all of that air column as it comes out the whole time. So you go, so take it down and then compress and control it out. In fact, one way to practice that is to have a candle in front of you and to blow out so that it just flickers, but you can make it just flicker. And so you're controlling that stream of air, but you don't blow it out. No, it's about yay far. Or you need to practice. I've not done it in a long time, but it's just you're controlling the stream of air so that the candle flickers, but not so forceful that you blow it out, and not so shallow that it doesn't move at all. And so it comes from down here.
I'm actually thinking about it like it's like the hose that you have having it on jet as opposed to on mist or shower. And it goes a lot further and it's targeted. But it's the same amount of water that
it's going out.
It's coming out.
Yes, just be much more efficient the way you use it. Yes.
And that information, together with what we talked about, the embouchure and the right tubes, all of that will equate together to a better sounding instrument. You know? The one we haven't done is the breathing, because using so much air, maybe practice that. You know, in certain sections, everyone breathes. You know, and to come into the next. And I also did the clarinet and flute, and that's the one thing that really, when you're reading a lot of the sheet, is make sure you know when you're going to breathe. You don't want to randomly be catching your breath. You know,
we've relied on the principle that there's so many of us that if we breathe at different times, there will always be somebody playing. There won't be a gap.
Well, it's also the phrasing.
Yeah.
The phrasing in the music.
Yeah, if we want, so there are a few that we do which are sort of like smooth, right? And it's sort of so that's when we don't want any break. But then, Liddy's right. There's other tunes where there's natural times when you take a breath, not really.
Tony, what about those times where one of the parts has had a number of notes or long notes and they've got another note, and the tendency is to everybody breathe at the same time, and you lose the rhythm for that. We're always late coming in on that next note because we're out of breath. So one possible solution is you agree that some people will breathe here and stop here and breathe, and others will stop here and breathe, and you get overlap. Is that a common problem, and is that a strategy you use? Or
it is a common problem. You get so clever when you do things for a living. As doing the busking, we stopped doing the ida arca thing, but we still do the technique, but we do it with two maltas, and we'll alternate notes regardless. So you'll be hopping back and forth, and you get used to it. And that way, there's not that problem where one player will be, and then they got one tube, and
So you're covering up someone not playing. So it is a bit like what we try to do is people are just taking breaths when other people are covering.
And the trick with that is when you come in, to try and come in gently, and so that you're not sort of suddenly coming back in because you're full of breath. You've got to come back in at the right pitch.
When it's inside a note, the length of the note. What else is good?
Playing as a band, I noticed that we have that different members of the band do attack at different levels, and it would be nice if we can sort of agree on a level of attack with the notes. Some are barely tonguing it, and others are really, doing it. So
Yeah. Following on from that is about when it should be a strong attack, like with a, and other times when it isn't. Is that are there some tunes that are just strong, and then others are gentler?
Well, that's when it comes in, the different flutes, and the different tunes that you have, one would be a melody accompaniment, but like as I said before, your style, you're focusing on the pre-Columbian, where it doesn't really call for that different characteristics, you're not doing delicate little single nines, but you're doing kind of blocks, right? So it would be good to you kind of get an even force of attack, or evening up the volumes between the different players. That's why that'd be great. As I said before, I can't emphasize this enough. Just being able to identify your own instrument. If you notice it's a dud tube, identifying what a dud tube will probably the biggest factor of getting a better sounding instrument. Yeah. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna film myself tying up hand flutes. So maybe if you are interested, you can look me up and.
I think that'd be really useful.
And how to cut them as well.
Yeah, and how to
the cutting,
that would be really useful.
Absolutely. Yeah. But for the maintenance, somebody asked, the straw cleaners that are very popular with the metal straws now, they're great to clean the tubes and.
So that's where you've got the metal.
Like a metal wire with a brush. You can slide it in and out.
So that'd be really good.
And I don't know if you've ever played in the rain or the very extreme cold, but they become useless. They kind of absorb it like a sponge. They absorb the water, and there's nothing you can do. So
it's not good for the drums either.
No, we don't play the rain.
Yeah, so we're pretty good at playing in the rain.
Fair weather players.
What's the tune that we start off playing when we march?
Kiki.
Should we play that and get a comment?
Yeah, okay, and then we'll do Sakuri. We'll do the Sakuri. So Kiki and then Sakuri.
How much?
So I'll have to go get my Sakuri. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
can I just say, I think we've already benefited from this. That sounded way better than
And I loved what you emphasised, what you were playing, and you added that.
the sliding. I was going to mention that.
Say that.
Well, it's a lot of it's kind of what could you call it? Ad-libs or ornamentation kind of little bits.
I reckon there are people in our group who do that.
That's a thing.
Some of us do that a little bit.
Do you do that?
For a couple, just a little bit. So we just show each other Sakuri.
Really short, so using the tongue to stop the note.
Like more staccato.
And then the other thing with this is because we basically play the same thing, but we play every second note of the. But sometimes we get a bit, it should be really. And sometimes we sort of go do.
We swing it.
And it's quite hard to. So once someone starts to do it, it's like having this sort of wobble. And I don't know how you get over it. I mean, sometimes I think when marching it's better because then you.
It should be. It's very military. This, and it'd be interesting if you've heard anything like this before, or whether this is. Alarm just sort of made this style up. We treat this as being ancient, but we're not sure. Now, usually there is a snare drum with this.
Yeah.
But we'll still do it.
Yeah, and the bobos are playing the on-beat, the snares playing the
Like the
off-beat.
okay.
Just very straight.
I listened to us in the old, when I was sending stuff to Michelle, I listened to us play this like 10 years ago. And we're faster. It was really interesting. Back then, it was faster.
Oh, we're getting old, slow down.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Wow, that's good. Wow, excellent.
You made that?
No, that's the one I learned from Alarm. So you can hear a bit of the dun 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 dun.
Yeah, no, especially with the people doing the offbeat, right?
Yeah, it's the offbeat. It's the offbeat. So have you ever heard anything like that
Yeah,
before?
that's what I was telling you before, the hula hula. Yeah, that's what they call it in Bolivia in some parts, where they do the same note. Yeah, I think this must be because of the sound, but
Say it again.
hula hula.
Hula hula.
J.
J-U-L-A, J-U-L-A.
Okay.
What the,
So it's not Salon.
No,
So
that's what they call it. I noticed that it's, you guys are, you know, I noticed what you said, where you know, the offbeat people are kind of looking at it. I mean, it's just a musical thing, you know, it's about getting used to that, but having that solid accompaniment probably will help a bit.
I suppose
Yeah.
we sometimes have a beat on the offbeat.
yes, that's the snare.
Yeah, so
The snare helps the
Yeah.
offbeat.
And I would say for that style, maybe not so much tonguing. I think is that what you are?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Sure.
Maybe a bit less attack, because it is kind of meant to be kind of a wavy, not staccato. Maybe try not so much.
Do you want to try it again?
Not staccato.
So not as sharp. Should we?
More like the breath.
Should just
More
a
like
breath
the breath.
start, or?
Oh, it's still the full tone, but not so much attack, because then you have to be sharp.
Yeah, it's just.
Not as much tongue, but because if you do tongue it, then you have to be precise, and then you can really tell when people are kind of following me.
But not precise, which is
All the recorder and clarinet players, and maybe flute players too, I think I've always been tonguing on the roof of the mouth.
Yeah.
And I just noticed that if you tongue behind the lips, as we've learned today, it's a softer,
Oh yeah.
it's still percussive, but it's softer. So if you're a recorder or wind instrument player, when you tongue, well, I learned to tongue with the tongue on the roof of the mouth, and when you release the tongue, it comes out with a really sharp blast of air. But if you tongue behind the lips, as we've been doing today, it's not as hard.
Yeah.
So it's still staccato, but it's a softer pulse.
So your tongue is on the back of your lip,
Yeah.
top lip.
Well, I think you said both lips.
Yeah. Oh,
That's real spitting.
oh, so the spit one. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a do, yeah. I can
You
do.
notice it's a bit better? Yeah. From the Awatinas band,
Yeah.
like as I said, they do in every one of the albums, they put a compilation
Yep.
of these type of songs, one after the other, uninterrupted. And there's a couple of tunes in there that would suit this type of ensemble. Yeah. Awatinas, yeah.
Oh yeah, we're just going to show Michelle the Totoro canon. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4.
works so well.
Yeah,
can it?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
It worked amazing.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. Yeah.
First time for you?
It sounds amazing.
Yeah, so do you have that tune? Or that's called, we call it
I've heard
Tatora.
that tune before.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was from Into Your Money, wasn't
Yes,
it?
it
That
was.
you, Bruce, you heard it, yeah.
Yeah.
How about either Securiata or Trace Maya? Securiata.
That was amazing. I've heard that before as well.
Yes. Called Securiata.
Securiata, of course. That would have a snare in this.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. So we do.
la zampoñista.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, we usually do it 3 times, no drum
Yeah.
first one, drums, and then snare.
And
Build it up to what
Yeah, we used to go really fast.
do you have any comments on? Oh, sorry.
No, sorry, I'll tell you on, shut up. You go.
Any comments on the movement and the
That looked great, you know, you're stopping, you know, that it really needed that snare for me, you know,
Well,
I remember when I was, in Uruguay and growing up, that we used to see the Andean dances and that they used to do this little step like that and going like this. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the typical guaño kind of,
Yeah, that's not the same for all songs.
No.
Okay.
I was going to say one thing that for this type of thing, I would really, I know it's a bit waste, but it really needed that real
High.
All the time.
I know it's a bit, you know, but for me, it would, you know.
Yeah, the cantu, we have those high ones. What are the chulis? They're called
Chulis or icas,
Incas.
yeah.
Have them all.
They're very high tone, but
But it'd be nice to have
Yeah,
one or
do
two
we
of
have
those.
No, I don't know if anyone's got them, but I have this memory, like Lizzie does too, high ones, not for
Oh, they're different to these. We've got
very
the
different.
two.
Yes,
It's not
can't do it.
Sometimes we have them usually in the beat.
Are they the ones that we can't play with?
the double set, I think we've got.
Yeah,
we do.
for the cantus we do, but that's in a different tuning to these.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's in a different tuning.
Might be worth getting a few.
Yeah, Incas or chulis, yeah?
Yeah, chulis, icas, yeah. If you have the tubes, once I show you videos, you can tie them up yourselves.
Yeah,
Tube
we
to
can
tube,
make
you
them.
know, but
We can make some.
So it's the same tuning as these, but I'm not that high.
I'm not too
Yeah.
high. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of tubing.
A lot of things you do?
But it's not good
also-
enough.
I've got a question about that first slow bit.
Yeah.
Would you do vibrato in those long notes?
No. Not slow vibrato. I heard some people doing the fast vibrato.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, but it wouldn't really call for that, you know, kind of
No.
organized, synchronized. Yeah.
So do you think it sounds right if some are doing a fast vibrato and it's not coordinated and everything?
For me, that's the essence of this style of music.
Yeah,
the
right.
roughness and, you know, like even like somebody mentioned, even if you get the wrong note, you know, it kind of still fits in.
Yeah.
In 20 years, we've perfected roughness.
So maybe that's a thing with Argentinas, having a look at just hearing what they do. So they're the ones that do the real
Yeah, they
vibrato.
take
Just see how they do it and what they do it with.
Yeah.
So it's just knowing that that's an option.
See, in Bolivia they call them too clean, too perfect, because they really take this to a real
Right, that group.
tuning's perfect, everything.
Right, so the,
But on funny things,
yeah.
there's a few other things I would love to share with you guys.
Yeah, oh, that'd be fantastic. Send a big email to me.
Yeah.
So is this the difference between folk music and orchestral music?
Yeah, it just
So
sounds.
good to have the justification.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like
Oh,
orchestral.
like if we're doing a concert before this, we could do,
play one piece more in that, rehearse one piece more in that refined style, and everything else is just to sort of play that sort of thing.
We can play the same tune both ways.
Yeah.
They
When I swing, will I dart? Yeah, play swing sometimes.
Well, what might be good is to have some homework, right? That you do individually, or if you do get together, which is up to you guys, the people that are in Melbourne over winter. But homework based on a video, okay, and we can sort of have some notes about what to work on, just then you look in the video about how to do it. And then either the end of this year or the start of next year, we do another one with Michelle to see how we're going. And that hopefully leads into... So, well done, actually.